We're sitting in my patio garage on this Thursday morning on the 7th, and you see the map in the background. We're not taking any trip. We're waiting for people to come from these places to Champlain, New York. I'm Bob Venn, and this is Marshall Maynard. Marshall raised here in Champlain, and we're getting ready for a Champlain Central, Champlain High School reunion. And welcome to the program, Marshall.
Thank you.
We'd like to tell you what's happening about our reunion, which is going to be held on the 13th and 14th of July. And I'll give it to our chairman, our president of our Alumni Association, just recently formed. Marshall, tell us a little bit about Marshall Maynard.
I don't know that there's that much to tell. I lived in Champlain all of my life, or the Champlain area. I now live in Chazy. I graduated from Champlain Central School in 1949.
You realize that dates you, don't you? Huh?
Well, I graduated at about the age of 6, so that's not quite as bad.
Okay, so you went to that school all your life at Champlain
Yes.
Central?
Yeah.
That's not the new building, all of it.
No, I started in the old school where Carl Friend's house is now, and then on the corner of Elm and Prospect. And then when that burned in 1940, we were in school in the Methodist Church and the Grange Hall in Champlain and the Town Hall also.
Now, we're talking the Methodist Church on Church Street here, right across from the Grange Hall.
Yeah. That was it was taken over as a school during the time until they built the new Champlain Central School, which is now the elementary school in Champlain.
For anyone who's out there in Chazy and Moores watching this and don't know where Elm and Prospect is, as you cross the bridge going toward the Harris or the old shop, and you come to the Savoy, if you turn left and go up that hill, that's Prospect, and as you turn to go up, the Savoy would be on your right, and on the left is where Carl Friends lived. And that's where the school was, known as the Champlain Academy, I think, at that time, was it?
In the beginning, I think it was rebuilt. It was originally built in 1890s anyway, and then it burned and was rebuilt in 1898, and it was used as a school until it burned again in 1940.
Okay, what happened to Marshall Maynard after you left high school?
Well, I went into the service for a while. I went to college for a short while, and then into the service, and came back and worked as a customs inspector until I retired 3 years ago.
And enjoying your time off?
Now I'm doing what you're doing, nothing.
Oh, I wouldn't say that. I see you up at the Glenwood Cemetery, helping to keep that beautiful cemetery in shape.
We're making an attempt, yes.
Making an attempt. And your wife, Ann, is a former employee at Delagar?
Delagar, yes.
And she's retired?
She's not working.
Not working. All right. Well, she's taking census right now. So if a lady by the name of Ann Maynard calls on you, that's Mrs. Marshall Maynard. Okay, Marshall, what brought about this? We know we've always wanted one, but what brought this about?
Well, I've always felt that we should have a reunion, and I didn't want to take the time myself. I was hoping someone else would do it, but since no one did and I had retired, I talked to a few other alumni, and we decided that it would be a good idea. So then I got a hold of you, which was one of my better moves, and now instead of Bob helping me, I'm helping Bob. So, but it's worked out well, and we've done quite a bit of work on this, especially Bob, and it's looking good now for the reunion.
Okay, we decided way back that the time to start this would probably be with that 1898 rebuilding of the school.
Well, one of the reasons, in the 1938 yearbook, I believe they had a list of all the graduates up to 1938, starting in 1898 when the second school at that location was built. So we decided to start there, and realizing that a lot of the older people would not still be here, but it would be a starting point, and to continue up to the point where Champlain merged with Rouse's Point and formed Northeast Clinton. So, and then at that time, well, we decided we'd have to cut it off. There'd just be too many people.
Right. If you remember when we were talking about that, we did decide we were going to cut it off at 1956. This is when they actually merged with Rouse's Point and was still known as Champlain Central. But the Rouse's Point students stayed in their Rouse's Point building, and the Champlain stayed in their building, and the only things they had together was the sports teams and the various plays and so forth, and also graduation.
Combined graduation.
But we did that. We cut off there mainly because of, obviously, there's more alive in 57, 58, 59 than there are back in the 1800s. And as a result of that, we didn't have a place to have a reunion. And if you remember, we had trouble getting a location to hold some up to maybe 500, 600 people. We had no idea. And we cut it off at 1956. And we ended up planning for the candlelight, which would hold about 225 people, with the idea that if we had more than that, we would go on into another location, which Krista Granfrey offered us, the cafeteria at the high school. And as a result, our first planning, our first letter, resulted in over 300 people saying they're coming. And that's where we're going to plan it. So tell us what's going to... Well, let's go back a minute. Obviously, if we had gone back before 1898, we wouldn't have had anybody attending anyway, obviously. They would be over 100 years old right now. You know, they would be 100 years old. 1898 would have been born probably in 1880, 81. They'd be 110. We have... my records show that we had 438 possible alumni during that period, from 1898 to 1959. So what we did, explain that, Marshall, what happened in 56, 57?
Well, when we cut it off at 56, and decided to cut it off at 56, we got several students from 57, 58, and 59 classes who wanted to attend and wanted to be a part of this. So after some discussion, we decided that that's what we would do. We would include everyone, and so now it includes any living students from 1898 through 1959.
When you say student, you mean graduates?
Graduates,
absolutely,
yes,
because
right.
we're not inviting. They have to be a graduate. And what we're also talking about here is because we had the school, we could then get more people inside. And if we hadn't, we were going to get those next 3 years in our next meeting, which we probably figure every 5 years we'll have one of these, if we're still living and around or someone else can take over the reins. Counting those through 1959, I came up with about 438 names who are alumni, of which 305 are still living. 438, 305 that we're not sure, but we think are still living. 65 teachers. Records for teachers are very bad, particularly previous to 1938, and of those, 47 still living. We sent out a preliminary letter back in April, and we got very good response, particularly from the out-of-towners. Our biggest problem has been the local people and people in the immediate vicinity. You haven't even replied. And we hope you people out there who are watching are going to reply and are going to come, because our cutoff date is July 1st. So let us know you've all got a letter, except for about 17 people, which we'll name later. Maybe some of you people out there can tell us who they are. Okay, Marshall, tell us our plans then for the reunion weekend.
Well, we're going to start, this is going to be the 13th and 14th, and we're going to start off with the evening of the 13th at the American Legion in Champlain with a Dutch Street get-together. We're hoping that a lot of the local community will show up there. They don't have to be alumni or teachers to come that evening. It's just a get-together where they can renew acquaintances. They could be graduates of St. Mary's, Moore's, Rouse's Point, but they'll meet a lot of people that they used to know from out of town and from within the area also that maybe they haven't seen for a long time. It'll just be a get-together that evening. And on a Saturday at 1 o'clock, the Champlain Elementary School will be open for a review or a tour. And we will have at that time as much memorabilia as we can collect, pictures, different things anyway, old uniforms, anything that we can find pertaining to the schools. And will be on display at that time. And following that, until 4 o'clock, the Legion Hall across the street will be open so that they can go over there and maybe just sit down instead of standing around and talking, and be able to sit down and renew acquaintances again. The Champlain Library, I believe, will be open, and there will be also in the library display case a display of memorabilia. So,
if I could just add a couple of things there, Marshall. First of all, the Legion will be open from 1 o'clock also, from 1 to 4. So if anyone does not want to go to the school for any reason, it gives them break out in a rash or something when they go in their old high school, whatever, they can go to the Legion, and people will be coming in and out. They can walk right across the lawn of the school over to the Legion on Elm Street, and the library will be open. Mrs. Drescher said that she would be available. She was a former teacher for 30 years here in our system, and she'll be there to meet some of her students from years past. And Friday night, there will be drinks available at Dutch Street, as Marshall mentioned, but we will have a few finger foods, some dips, some chips, etc. And again on Saturday afternoon that people can nibble on. That'll be part of our reunion cost, and nothing to the people who are attending. All right.
right.
And then after 4,
After 4, you get a little break until about 6:30, and then their dinner will be held for alumni and their spouses or guests, and teachers and their spouses or guests, former teachers. There seems to be a little misunderstanding. In the last letter that we put out, we did not mention the teachers as such, and there's been a feeling that maybe they could only attend the Friday night function. This is not true, that they are all invited to the dinner on Saturday evening. That dinner will be held at the new NCCS school in the cafeteria, and will be catered. So
that's the Boseleys from the Candlelight up just outside of Morris Park. They're all planned. Final plans are in. There'll be some cold and warm or hot buffet
dinner. And then following that, Bob's arranged for some nostalgia music of the 30s, 40s, 50s, and maybe the 20s.
Yes, we got some 20s.
So we're going to have that, and the auditorium and the gymnasium will be open so that you can probably break down into smaller groups and again renew acquaintances and get together.
Yeah, we're expecting somewhere between 250 and 300 people at this time. I've so far have received 68 answers from graduates. That's 68 graduates have answered since I sent the letter out the 29th of May. I'm sorry, make that bigger pardon, the 20th of May. And we want answers back before July 1st, quicker if possible. Of those, 18 have said no, they will not be attending the dinner. Some of those will be at the other functions, but will not be at the dinner. But 50 of the 68 said they will be coming to the dinner, and with their spouses and or guests, I have paid so far 83 people. And that's just a very small part of those that we expect. And our charge is $12 for the dinner, which includes the buffet, the dinner, the tips. We're going to have lemonade and drinks afterwards. And remember, at the high school, we can't have no smoking and no drinking of any kind, no alcoholic beverages at NCCS whatsoever. You will be able to go outside and smoke. We hope for nice weather that we can get outside and around the building, and people can get out there and take a break. And talking about a break, we're going to take a break here for just a couple minutes. The original meeting we had back in November, I think it was, of 1989 to organize this was first held at the Legion Home, and we had several other meetings at the Legion Home. And we want to thank the Legion for their cooperation with us. We met in the back room as they had their bingos on Thursday nights, and we held meetings for about 3 or 4 there, and we've since had 3 on Tuesday nights in the public library through the courtesy of the library directors and committee. And as a result, the original committee, Marshall?
Well, the organizing committee consisted of Bob and myself, Bernice Blair, Rita Chapman, Lucille Cameron, Betty Ashline, Norbert Yakey, Harold Smith, Norma Barcombe, Pauline Roberts, Ed and Cyril Menor, Shirley Deloria, and Glennis Scriber. And then Pat Glode sat in on one of the meetings as an advisor to help us to organize the teachers list, and when we were trying to find as many teachers as we could.
All right, after about the second meeting or so, we decided we better have officers, if you remember. And we elected officers. Give us the list of the officers.
Well, the officers ended up myself as president, Norbert Yakey as vice president, Bob Venn as treasurer, and Betty Ashline as secretary. We also have some other committees now which will be dealing with the different phases of this get-togethers. We have a memorabilia committee with Glennis Scriver, Bernice Boyer, and Beverly Maynard as that committee. One for snacks, that will be Norma Barcombe and Pauline Roberts. We have a name tag committee to make sure that everyone has a name tag, and that's going to be Norbert Yakey, who's taking care of that. We also have a registration book which everyone will be signing, and Betty and Gloria Ashline will be taking care of that. Shirley Deloria will be in charge of decorations, and then the banquet committee consists of John Zerlo and Cyril Menor. I believe that's about it with the committees.
Okay, we also have some people that we still have not found. So it will give you, as we're talking here, maybe 5 or 10 seconds. I hope you can get a pencil down. And if you recognize any of these names, would you write it down and either contact Bob Venn here in Champlain, Marshall and Shazy, any of the people you've heard on that list, or tell someone at the school, anybody at all, tell somebody about, because we're still looking for 17 people. And Marshall, tell us who those people are, please.
Well, the graduates are Ruth Eaton from the class of 1918. Now, I don't believe that's going to be very easy to find her, but we also have Elmer Blake, class of 1930, Warren Hamilton, class of 1938, Alice Ryder, class of 1940, Richard Goki, class of 42.
He's been particularly hard. I've made it 29 to 30 calls on Richard, and I just can't get even a semblance of a possibility.
Then we have Joseph Fredette and John LaFave, both from the class of 56, Thomas Sharkey, class of 57, and Fred Colby from the class of 58. We haven't been able to locate any of these people, and we certainly would appreciate it if anybody knows where they are or knows any of the relatives who live in this area who might be able to give us some help in finding them. We would certainly appreciate it.
My number is 298-3971 here. This is Bob Venn, and we're talking with Marshall Maynard on our program, What's Going On Here. Tom Sharkey, I just got the letter back. The last address I had was in Paducah, Kentucky, but that's been 6 or 7 years, that address is. And Fred Colby in the Buffalo area, but I can't find out where.
And we also have some teachers that we haven't been able to locate. Penny Adams, Peggy Delaney.
Peggy Delaney just got a letter back I was given an address for her dated 1984, but that came back and she's no longer at that location.
Gladys Eaton, Robert Ehrlich, Mary Gregory, Ruth Coster, Lois Mayer, John Pello, and Mel Stern. We haven't been able to locate any of these teachers, so perhaps someone out there was a friend of theirs while they were here and still knows where they has kept in touch with them and could give us their address so that we can get in touch with them.
We certainly would appreciate anything that you could help us with. Give getting back to memorabilia, I have in front of me here the 1948 yearbook that was just given to me by John Zerlo. It's signed in here, John Zerlo. Probably he had an extra one of this. And this is particular interest because it had a picture of the school that was on the corner of Elm Prospect. That's the school that burned in 1938. And we wanted this, and there's a story of this. And there's a story in this book also of education in Champlain, written by Mr. Cotting, I believe. And there's another one that we have written,
Oscar
Breenberg, and another one written by Dan Marr. And those have been retyped and put on a separate page, 7 or 8 pages of it by Glennis Scriver. And we're going to be handing those out to all the graduates so they'll have a record of education here in Champlain. And a particular interest here is a little graduation exercises of June the 23rd, 1903. That was at our old building. And the graduating class is listed on this page on one line. You have the names there of 1903. Yeah. Mary Louise Dunn and Helen Mary Hitchcock. Both whom are deceased at this point. But this is 1903. We're going to have this type of memorabilia. And if you have anything like this out there and you want to loan it to us, we'll be sure you get it back. Contact Glennis Scriver.
Her phone number is 298-5620. And she will be in charge of the memorabilia committee. And also you could get in touch with Bernice Boyer or Beverly Maynard. Either one of them. Now,
Glennis is the former Glennis Dodge Scriver that lived on the road, what was that, up Prospect Street on the way to Rogers Point, the Golf Course Road area. Here's another printing I got from Peg Varcombe. I've got the 7 or 8 pages of this, a 1906-1907 course of study, Champlain High School. And that'll be on display. I see that she must have paid $3.50 for this. The price is still on the front of it. This is a copy only. And interesting in here, in the faculty at that time was a Charles Lewis principal, Ruth Wallen preceptress, and Louis Hersey, and Catherine Kearney. Catherine Kearney, Plattsburgh Normal Intermediate Department, is one of our first graduates of
the class of
1898. The Board of Education, some local names: John Crook, Amasa Spellman, Joseph LaFontaine, William Dunn, Bartlett Nye, and J. Napoleon Duquette were the Board of Education. The clerk was Charles Lewis. Ernest Tierman was treasurer, and Charles Moore collector. Champlain names. And this is a copy of a picture of a class in the old building that I got from Bennett Dame. We're going to have the originals at the school, but this has the 3 Wright sisters. I believe that one of the Kennedy boys are in here. Alice Robinson Webb is in this picture, and many other people still living in our area. And we'll have the original of this at the school. Very nice old pictures. Bennett has some real nice pictures. As we look at the map behind Marshall and I here, what I have done is I have taken the whole United States and I have put pins wherever we have a graduate that are still living, that we know their address, and including San Francisco and Monterey, California, and there are 9 in California, and one that comes to mind is Gloria Bayshard, who was in my class of 1946, and she's coming. And Bernard Bayshard down here in Houston, Texas, and he's coming. Bud LaPlante now lives in Austin. I'm sorry, that's Austin here. The Houston pin fell out. These pins are falling out on this board. I made this about a month ago. And we have 2 people out here in Idaho.
Montana.
That's where in Montana?
Montana, yeah.
Okay, that's the Bartlows, I believe, are out in that area. And in Chicago, and then a lot of people in Florida. As they got, remember, at this class reunion, we expect hardly anybody under 50, whether they admit it or not. Remember, they would be been born at 59. Graduate would have to have been born about 19
They had to graduate 31 years ago.
31
so.
years ago they graduated, so take that. If you're 17, you'd be 48 years old. Marshall and I are just a little over 50. So this is the state of New York, the United States, and nothing in the state of New York, because in the state of New York we have more people, and I have grouped them here. For instance, someone, I just got a note the other day from Bolivar, New York, and she, I think that she said she can't make it now. Binghamton, there's 3. We have a group in Syracuse. The 3 Gross, Sammy, Naomi, and Sarah are all in this area, and the others in the Syracuse area. There's 3 in Rochester, the Durants, I believe, they're all in this area. And then Long Island, here's one I couldn't find, Dix Hills, anywhere, but it's on Long Island somewhere, so I put a pin out here. The Albany area, and then there's a lot around the Clinton County. And when you get into Champlain, Rouse's Point, Moores, and Plattsburgh, I only have one pin to represent the area because there's a lot of graduates still up in this area. Messina, we have Schweenyor, I believe, and Marcella Boucher Bailey lives there. And we're going to have these at the reunion also. I've got a few more pins to put back up. And we'll take another break. Marshall, have anything you want to cover right now?
Not
We'll
right.
take a break for a second. I'm holding a CCS Rockets towel that was given to me by, I think my son had this. One of our memorabilia we're going to have at the reunion. Here's a pair of basketball shorts. I don't know the year of these yet. Someone of the players will know. CCS on the side and CCS on the other side. We're not sure if that was the Rockets or just before that. We're looking for this type of thing. If you have some that are different, give one of our 3 ladies a call and offer to loan those to us. Here is only one. Of course, you had to have 2, one for each leg. It's a stirrup, I think. Calvin just asked me if I knew what it was. I think it's called a stirrup, and that's another thing with our colors. And through the courtesy of Calvin Castine with the camera, a CCS Rocket jacket, one of the old basketball jackets. This was number 13, lucky 13. And we hope to, if there's any others out there, we hope that someone will contact us so we can have those. And down below here, most of these are mine, or my children may have got them, but this may be a later one. I'm not sure. That's still in the package, and I did not take it out. In the Chenille Award, this is that was Scholastic Award at school. Probably I got that. You know, there were 8 in my class. It wasn't very hard to be in the top third. As long as you were one of the top 3, you were in the top third of your class. Here's a cheerleading award, a manager's award in 1953 that I don't know whose that was. And there's another Scholastic Award in 54, so obviously that was not mine. 55, a basketball letter, and then a big C that has nothing on it at all. I don't know what that was for. But we do have 8 of these, and we're looking for something different. We're looking for a cheerleader shirt, sweaters, and skirts. We don't have any of those. We'd like to have one of those to put up in the school. Pictures. Marcia, what else can we think of? We want pictures, particularly pictures that have not been in a yearbook, and anything at all to do with the school. Graduation ceremony, the little printed folders, anything at all that will have us remember what happened. I have a ticket in one of these here someone gave me. And that's my class ring is in here. You can't see it, but it's inside. I also have a ticket to one of the proms that someone has loaned me. I think it's in that envelope over here. And we'll get back over to our table. Did you go to this prom on May the 18th, 1945 at Champlain Central School? Stuart Reed's orchestra. His son Fred had indicated on a previous letter he was going to come to our reunion. We haven't got his final letter yet. 8:30 to 12. It was semi-formal. $1.20 per couple. Tax was included. That's what it cost to go to the dance in 1945. We're looking for that type of thing. I also want to show you the yearbooks for you people out there who would have the... You'll notice that all the pictures in this yearbook, and probably for 6 or 7 years, had to be pasted. There were actual pictures that were developed for us, I think, by Mr. Stone.
Yes.
Ralph Stone, and we had to physically paste them into the book. So all of these have been pasted into these books. That's what we've got. We want to thank you for being interested in our reunion here for the July 13th and 14th, and we're going to get back to Marshall now, who's going to give us some more information that he has gathered about people.
Well, I just wanted to mention that as far as we know, the oldest alumni is Lillian Atwood Merrihew, who lives in Plattsburgh and who graduated in the class of 1914. We also have two ladies from 1918. We have Broder Lucas, who graduated in 1919, who spends his summers in Perry's Mills, and we're hoping will be able to attend.
He told me he'll be there if someone can give him a ride. He can't drive anymore, he said.
We will arrange for a ride
absolutely.
For him.
And we're trying to keep it as much as possible right in the village of Champlain, because this is where our school was, obviously. We're trying to get everything held right here, if possible. Mrs. Merrihew, again, she is going to attend, right?
Yes. Yes.
She's going to be...
said she's looking forward to it, and I told her she had to come, that she's going to be our star. So.
Yeah. Now, we have a couple other stars that we think that should be at our reunion that really didn't graduate with us, but had an awful lot to do with our school.
That's right. We've asked Francis St. Maxon, who attended all the functions that I can think of at the school, at least while I was going to school there, who played piano for a lot of the recitals and things like that, and was one of our better fans, so we've asked her to attend as a guest, and we have one bus driver, I believe, left that drove us to all the basketball games and that, Joe Filion, and he and his wife have been asked to attend as guests.
There's, as far as I know, during that period, we have 3 bus drivers still living, and that's all. And the other 2 are graduates, and they'll be there anyway. They are there because they're graduates.
Oh, that's right.
There are 2 others.
Yeah,
Don Bayshard, and I think, is it Marius? There's another Bayshard, Marius, I believe. Mm-hmm. And we lost recently, of course, another Bayshard, Alphonse. Just a year ago, we'd love to have had him. I think his family are going to be the largest family there. I think there were 8 or 9 kids, and as far as I know, all those eligible to come except one have already sent their money and said they're going to be there. And I heard she's coming too, but I just haven't got the money on Ruby yet. And Marshall, it's been, I'm very happy you could be with us to publicize our dinner, July 13th and 14th, right?
Right.
And the people will be here. Please attend the evening of July the 13th. Anybody in town, anybody in our area that wants to meet and renew acquaintances with these people, come over, invite them to your house. They can have me over on Sunday.
Come over and compare hairlines or wrinkles or whatever.
Weight.
Compare
weight.
We'll have a scale there so that you can compare weight.
Yeah, compare your spouses with our spouses and all those things, right?
And just get together and have a good time. We're really looking forward to this, and all the letters that we're getting back have been very positive, and it seems like we're going to have a good time. Everyone's going to have a good time.
Yes.
So.
I got a letter just the other day from Edna Elvidge, a class of 1945, who lives in British Columbia near Vancouver. And she said she's not going to be able to make it. She's got other plans for that week. However, she sends her very best to all the graduates, and I have other letters to read at the reunion. And we also like to mention one more person who is Dan Marr. Dan Marr, our principal there from 1941 when it opened, straight through till 1959 when that building closed, and then on to the other school even. Dan Marr is our connecting link between all the classes. And Dan Marr has been in Florida all winter, but he has written to me a couple times, and he's expected home within the next 3 or 4 days, and we certainly are going to see you, Dan. If you're watching this, we would have seen you in the meantime. And we hope that you've enjoyed this program, and that if you have any questions, just contact us. And thanks again, Marshall, for being with us.
You're
any
welcome.
Closing thoughts?
No, not that I can think of.
We want to thank the committee again for all their meetings and diligent work. And that's about it. I also want to thank our post office. I went into the post office with all of my letters, and they were kind enough to give me all the zip code, not the zip codes, but their box numbers to put on these so that I would be able to have it for our future mailings. I'm doing this on my computer. And that's it from here at the summer room at Bob Venn's residence on Church Street, and stop in when you're going by. Thanks very much for watching.
Check the junk.
Check the junk. C, third letter in the alphabet, it stands for Champlain Central School, and Marshall Maynard is holding the jacket from back in the 50s. And I'm Bob Venn, and we invite you to tune in on this coming Sunday, June the 24th, for a story of our school reunion that's going to be held in July. And this program will follow the senior housing showing, also on this coming Sunday the 24th. Tune in, and you'll see all about our local housing and about our graduates who are all over the United States, and we'll be explaining this to you. Please tune in. It's called What's Going On Here. Hometown Cable coming to you every night at 5 p.m., 8 p.m., 1 a.m. in the morning, and 9 o'clock the following morning. The same show 4 times. Don't miss any of them.
Hello everyone, this is Calvin Castine. We're at the Kimpex facility, also known as the former Harris Graphics facility in Champlain. We're here on this Wednesday morning, June 27th, 1990, for a press conference announcing a new business to be located in this facility. We see among the dignitaries Bill Bingo and Bob Bruno from the county, Mark Berry from the LDC, Bob Morgan, who is employed here at Kimpex and also a member of the Chamber of Commerce, Bob Venn from the local IDA, talking with Mary Rasco from the Islander, Steve Manor from the North Countryman is here. We see Daryl Mayo and Leo Letourneau from the town of Champlain, Doug Igor from the village of Champlain, Dick Collins, who is the code enforcement officer, member of the LDC, probably still president of the Local Development Corporation. And in the hallway we see Ralph Gilpin from the town of Champlain, the clerk, and Tony Fillon from the village of Champlain. And more are expected, we're sure.
Well, on behalf of the Champlain Local Development Corporation, I would like to welcome everyone here this morning. We are today announcing the decision by Bennett Fleet International to locate a large-scale manufacturing facility here in the Kimpex building. The company will be engaged in the manufacturing of shoe components and will occupy some 27,000 square feet of space here at the the east end of this facility. Within the next few months, they will hire up to 35 employees and an investment in the community